Good afternoon. We are here with Brian Rainey, the CEO of Gooten. They are an on-demand supply chain platform. Brian, welcome. What's going on?
Thank you. Thanks, Mike. Not too much. Just starting to get ready for the holiday season on November 17th. This is going to be a holiday like no other, I think. So we're ramping up for a huge acceleration of orders. But other than that, it's just another day in a fast-growing industry.
So I'm guessing you were sort of alluding that this season might be a little bit different because of COVID or something. What's going on?
Yeah, that certainly has a piece of it. It turns out when you double the amount of e-commerce orders, the shipping and logistics supply chain doesn't exactly have the capability to double in size overnight. So, we're facing a lot of different things kind of all at once. You've got an enormous shift towards online ordering. You have unprecedented sort of volumes going through your major shipping houses, UPS, USPS, FedEx, DHL. You've got more and more people that are going to shift for the first time in a long time from experiential gifts, which had been the trend, travel and services, to physical gifts and physical goods. So just even within that shift, there's a huge jump up. So it's kind of all of these things all at once, where trend lines for a long time had been effectively linear, and then almost overnight, they sort of shift towards e-commerce sales. Looks like a vertical line. And so, flexible supply chain solutions has become the name of the game, and really finding complementary ways to continue to deliver on behalf of, the sort of end customer expectation is what a lot of online merchants need to figure out very, very quickly.
And are we seeing this as a result of, they've moved online shopping because they don't have the ability to go to their local shops? Are they doing it because it's safer, convenience, a little bit of all of the above?
I think it's really all of the above. One of the things that I think people are wondering is what happens after the pandemic, what goes back to normal. And I think really what we're seeing is not necessarily a change from what was to what is. We've seen an acceleration of a change that was already happening. You had predictions that by the end of 2021, online commerce would represent 17% of the overall economic activity. In Q2, that was 24%. And so where you had seen this kind of linear growth, what's really happening is trends that were already taking place. Online commerce, working from home and technology enablement, the ability to communicate in very, very different ways. The pandemic has really just accelerated a lot of those. So where you're absolutely right, in some cases where you would have gone down to the local store to pick something up, the value and convenience of getting that shipped directly to the home is something that we don't really see that's going away. At the same time, what technology and what kind of changes in the way we deliver items have brought over the past 5 years, you have a lot of people finding a much better and more personalized opportunity to get something that's much more directed towards them, rather than going to a big box retailer and buying, one of 100,000 SKUs that they can carry. So convenience, availability, and I think breadth of choice is really what technology and online commerce can enable for consumers.
And, how does this, this shift online, can local businesses survive this, and can they take advantage of this? What happens with local business?
Yeah, local business is absolutely a tough part of this, right? And we recognize that in the restaurant industry. I'm based in New York City, and the change and what this is going to do to the restaurant industry is going to be significant. But as I said, it's been a trend. The restaurant industry had to figure out new ways to deliver on behalf of their end customer. And as we see more and more people dining at home and wanting that dining at home experience, you're seeing local restaurants having to figure out how to make delivery work to satisfy their end customer. In the same way, online businesses that are local have a footprint already around last mile logistics. That's the most difficult part of the supply chain, of making sure that you can get something that last mile from a distribution center to the home. You're going to see a greater and greater shift of local businesses enabling online commerce, but creating the ability to come in store to pick an item up. You're seeing that with a lot of big box retailers. Expect to see technology enablement to where the idea of bricks and clicks, which I think you've heard before out of kind of Web 1.0, is this idea of how do you complement an online store presence with an offline in-person kind of ability to shop, you're going to see that moving down into local businesses. I think in a lot of ways, technology is going to enable local businesses to start competing online where they didn't previously have as good of a presence. So you're going to start to be able to say it's not just Amazon online. Now I can actually shop local even though I'm online.
One of the interesting announcements I heard in the last day or so is that Uber is moving into the we can deliver anything in 30 minutes. And that begins to talk a little bit about, the last mile and the supply chain, where Uber is looking, not just to move people, but to move, inventory and product as well.
If you look at Uber's strategy, especially over the last, since the pandemic began, they are letting go of tangential businesses. They're selling off their Uber Freight business. They're moving their advanced technology and self-driving group. They're looking to sort of explore a sale there while doubling down at moving people and delivery. They are buying Postmates to effectively expand that reach. Their entire business has been supported over the past 2 quarters on local deliveries. And I think in that same way, that idea of local merchants being complemented by these national delivery mechanisms of last mile delivery, whether it be your DoorDash or Postmates or TaskRabbit or whatever the next technology is going to be, that is where you can look to outsource the things that you're not great at. Uber is very, very good at moving people and packages a short distance. With the sort of local touch and local community flavor that is provided by a local merchant.
And what does that do with, what does that do to the concept of free shipping, right? Because Uber's not going to do this for free. So how does, one of the challenges that I've always had is like these delivery services for meals, you end up with a $30 hamburger,
a second meal. You're paying for a second meal. That's exactly right.
And so, yes, they can deliver and yes, they can manage the last mile, but at what cost? Because I mean, a lot of the retail business, we've always been taught like free shipping, right? So what does that mean?
Shipping isn't free though, right? And I think that's what the consumer gets conditioned, right? We talk to our merchant partners that are on the Gooten platform and utilize the Gooten supply chain to think of shipping as a product. Because that's what it is. When you buy an item to get it to the customer, you're buying the product itself and you're effectively buying shipping. Now, if the consumer is conditioned to free shipping, then you utilize shipping the product as an inducement to drive the customer towards where you're trying to drive them to, typically providing free shipping or subsidizing the cost of shipping at 110 or 115% of your average cart value so that they have to add one more incremental product. But what the local delivery services actually are shifting the consumer expectation towards, which I'll admit I'm surprised about because I'm like you, I always expect free shipping, is that there is a cost in getting that item to the end customer, to the door. And so what is the value of that convenience? And what we're seeing now is Postmates and DoorDash and Instacart and these sort of delivery services are now putting a real economic price on the convenience of delivery to home. And while that in the current situation where you really don't have other options to safely go out and shop, I think when we're truly back to normal, you're going to see a solidification, I think, of what that value of delivery, of that convenience, that time, that speed, while at the same time recognizing that Walmart, for example, is going to start turning more and more of their real estate space into pickup and drop off centers so that last mile delivery can effectively be done by the customer. So they take the in-store experience and the time of shopping in-store out, which is a major convenience, but they don't have to set up really complicated logistics networks. I think you're going to start to see that more and more as businesses and storefronts effectively act as hybrid logistics centers to get things to the end customer.
Yeah, I had heard that that's sort of the primary direction that most of the empty malls are going towards, is to turn them into fulfillment centers.
You're going to see that more and more,
and they're local,
more and more and more. Yep, that's exactly right. You've got space, you've got it local, and you have the majority of the way a mall is laid out. If you think about it, actually lends itself to anchor warehouses, if you will, for major big box retailers to have last mile delivery, customer pickup, while having smaller storefronts that can effectively act almost as a WeWork for fulfillment. There's also a major difference in the cost of shipping to a distribution center versus the cost of last mile. That's why it is so difficult. And finding that sort of hybrid solution that allows the customer to take part in that, to add onto an existing trip where they pass a mall. Malls are in places that, malls didn't spring up out of nowhere, right? Malls are really central to our communities. And so I think trips to malls are now going to be, are almost going to come back, but it's going to be one of picking something up rather than going and discovering and finding something.
And do you think when we return to whatever normal is, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, I mean, is that going to be primarily, sort of like flagship stores where you just might go and see and touch, but for the most part, you're going to buy online. So will it move to more flagship stores and less actual direct retail?
I think you have to look at what the consumer wants. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what's coming out of this, right? And at the exact same time as people are moving online, Amazon, the largest individual retailer, is moving offline. They bought Whole Foods. They are opening their own 4-star stores. So there will always be an experiential experience, to feel and to touch, and that tangential experience to shopping. And so this is not a one-size-fits-all model. What we're really going to be seeing is hybrid applications of different technologies, of different ways to shop, of different ways to interact in store and online, to where you can effectively, if you're a retailer, you need to be offering these complementary services so that you're touching the customer or your end consumer in the way and when they're ready to be, sort of purchased. So you can't negate the online ease, the ease of online shopping and the ability to come in and pick something up. You really have to think about how that hybrid solution works.
And I know that, what we're talking about is the customer experience, the customer journey, right? So what's happening is customers are expecting more and more from the different services. And again, that sort of leads back to the idea of some personalized offerings, right? That they're not satisfied with just simply buying one of, like you said, a SKU. They want something that's for them, that's original. So how do we address this personalized demand that we're seeing?
Yeah, and this is where I think this is where the Gooten business model and the on-demand supply chain really sort of comes in, to where, look, there is an absolute straight line from 3 major TV networks, ABC, NBC, and CBS, to digital cable, to a million different YouTube channels. People want to consume what is personalized and what they sort of connect to. Commerce is moving in the same way. Rather than selling, there's no longer there's not a fall and spring fashion season. H&M came out with 52 micro seasons a year to have short runs. Well, that's incredibly unsustainable. H&M has a massive inventory problem right now. So you face this sort of sustainability problem with the same issue of the consumer wants something that's personalized for them. How do I represent myself and my brand in a way that is unique to me? On-demand commerce and getting the production decision as close to the end customer's purchase decision as possible meets those two. So you lower or increase the sustainability by lowering the inventory needs, lowering pre-production costs, while providing through technology, through hardware equipment advances, the ability to create something that is on par with, from a quality standpoint, what was previously had to be done in pre-production, had to be user tested, had to be sort of taken out, so that you're now giving the consumer something that is unique to them, whether that's wall art or home decor or fashion or personalized gifts. Again, this is going to be a complement too. This is the ability for brands and content creators and retailers to reach their customers in all the ways they want to. This is not going to fully replace, the sort of core offerings. They will complement them in a way that allows brands to connect more deeply and more closely with their end customer.
And I'm guessing that this is something that Gooten can help with.
This is exactly what Gooten can help with. This is what we're doing. We are powering the on-demand supply chain and really opening up those opportunities so that, where content creators have back catalogs of, at times millions of different pieces of content. There's just no way that you can monetize that content in a way that is sustainable, right? You can't print a million different images and hope that they all kind of sell. At the same time, what you can do online, though, is in the same way that you can personalize the marketing journey to each individual person so that you are touching them and attracting them and talking to them where they shop, where they visit, where they browse. You can also now personalize the content and the commerce itself as well. So you can now offer me at the point of purchase something that is unique to me without having to carry that in inventory. That's where on-demand really does complement sort of traditional retail commerce, while at the same time effectively democratizing the distribution. You no longer need, we talked about malls, you no longer need a storefront in a mall. You no longer need employees. You no longer need inventory. You can set up through, whether it's a marketplace like an Etsy or an e-commerce enablement software like BigCommerce or Shopify. You can now set up a storefront effectively immediately. And what matters most is the ability to connect to the end customer. That's where the Gooten on-demand supply chain allows merchants to set up in the same way that Amazon Web Services doesn't, you're no longer required to buy your own server to run your website.
So are you allowing them to do white labeling, or are you connecting them with the suppliers? How does that work?
Yeah, so everything is white labeled. We like to say that, when our merchant partners utilize the Gooten network, their end customer expects or experiences something as if it was coming off the shelf of a merchant. We have a distributed network of 50 manufacturing partners with 90 locations globally. And when an order comes into the Gooten network, we choose the optimal manufacturing partner based on product and then location. So producing and shipping items that are going to California from the West Coast, which saves time, it saves money, it's more sustainable that way, it lowers the underlying cost to ship that item. We talked about free shipping already. One of the most important things is be as close to the end customer as possible there. So we have, through a single connection into the Gooten on-demand network, we have hundreds of products that can immediately be spun up where there is no cost until a single item is sold. And when we talk about going and working with brands that have their own supply chains that have been building this up for a long time, this is not necessarily to replace it. This is to complement it, to be able to extend the value of content, because there's an enormous amount of complementary products that customers want, that if you're not enabling those customers, if you're not creating that experience for an end customer to purchase and interact with a merchant the way they want to, you're either leaving money on the table or you're going to lose that customer and that customer purchasing decision to somebody who's going to.
And does this platform integrate with the traditional e-commerce platforms, such as Shopify?
Yep, we do. Shopify, WooCommerce, and Etsy native out of the box. We're doing a BigCommerce integration. We're partnering with BigCommerce to do a strategic a partnership with them that should be out in Q1 of 2021. We have the entire platform is based on an API, so you can utilize our API to integrate into effectively any platform that's needed to be able to take advantage of the entire Gooten system, as well as the ability to do personalization within our order management system. So not only can you track orders from production to shipping to being delivered, you can also create and personalize products within the order management system to deliver to each individual end customer.
And do you guys offer a full e-commerce solution to a store, or do they have to bring in an e-commerce solution and you order and you do the fulfillment?
We believe very, very strongly in sort of specialization provides a greater underlying kind of output, right? So we partner with best-in-class e-commerce solutions. What BigCommerce can do in focusing on merchant needs, from customer conversion, point of sale, web layouts, all of that, they can do that better than we can. So we partner and integrate with that so that the integration itself is seamless. Our focus is on technology and supply chain enablement. And so with our manufacturing partners, for example, they need to be able to manage people and space. They need to get an item through the manufacturing process into a box and onto a truck, right? That's what they need to do. We come in and partner with them from account management services, technology, and order integration tracking to create a better overall outcome. In the same way, the e-commerce platforms that are constantly upgrading and integrating with greater and greater sort of ecosystem of apps, so that that same level of sort of merchant and storefront personalization, what makes sense for one merchant doesn't necessarily make sense for another. We come in with the most flexible enterprise grade supply chain platform to complement the other services that will drive a brand forward.
And how do you deal with, I mean, one of the advantages of, you know, the non-on-demand is, you know, being able to buy in bulk or volume discounts. So how do you address that? And, you know, is there a way to capture that through your platform so that they can benefit from, you know, bulk buying or not?
Absolutely. Yeah, we have for certain customers, we have the ability to effectively capture orders, and if they go over a threshold, right? If you sell 100 different units, our system will actually route that to a bulk manufacturing partner and cut those incremental costs between 15 and 25%. What I think gets lost though is so much of the buying decision looks at the incremental unit cost as opposed to the all-in cost. By holding no inventory, you don't have inventory carrying costs, you don't have fulfillment costs, you don't have net working capital tied up in fulfillment. You don't have the amount of time to make sure that the incremental purchase between 2,000 and 5,000 units, for example, which can cut the cost by a greater 10%, that means that you have to sell. If you don't sell 4,500 of those units, you're actually losing money, even if you were to pay a higher unit price at the lower level, beyond the fact of sustainability and sort of comparability. So yes, our system has the ability to do a bulk purchase if that makes sense, but in a way that allows you to sort of complement that, where the long tail over a long period of time, you're not charging carrying costs, you're not charging fulfillment costs, you're not charging a second fulfillment fee after the item gets ordered. All of those costs have to be factored into that unit economic cost savings when you're producing in bulk.
And what about, you know, I find something that I really like, you know, through one of your partners. How do I know it's going to be there in a month, right? So my customers all, you know, I put it on my website, they love it, right? And then, you know, I contact you and you're like, oh yeah, they don't make that anymore. How do you deal with that?
We process 10 to 20,000 orders a day, so we're constantly upgrading and monitoring our system. The other benefit of the Gooten manufacturing network is we have redundancy within our network. Before a global pandemic, I used to use the example of, we had a snowstorm last holiday season where we had 3 days to get items out before December 25th, or they were going to be late, and a snowstorm hit a factory outside of St. Louis and caused them to shut down. These are 3 major days. We picked up 2,700 orders, moved them to North Carolina, produced and shipped those items, so they all arrived before December 25th. So the redundancy and capacity are sort of two sides of the same coin.
Santa helped, right?
Santa is the ultimate logistics provider. He really has a lot to teach the United States Postal Service this year. I know that they compare notes every year.
Yeah.
But you know, we're constantly monitoring the health of our network, and by having redundant capacity and by having redundant providers, merchants who need an always-on 24/7 solution can be provided that, rather than having sort of single party risk going direct to a manufacturer in case of those issues where, you know, it snows and things get shut down and packages have to get out. So our average production time in our network is 3 days across nearly every single one of our products. And then shipping is, depending on the sort of mode of shipping and with a good allowance for 2020 issues that we've seen, is around 4 days. So the average delivery time from production to delivery is about a week across effectively every one of our products. Now, that is not Amazon's 2-day, you know, purchase. So there absolutely is some education that's needed on why this sort of personalized or customized opportunity is going to take slightly longer. But as our network grows and as our technology continues to improve, we're cutting that time down through optimizations around our network size, and then obviously getting closer and closer to the end customer from a production and shipping standpoint.
And how do you handle returns?
Returns, we actually generally don't handle. These are customized items, so there's really not an ability to return that. Now,
Okay.
when you look at the level of returns and sort of the cost of taking that inventory back in, putting it back into, onto a shelf, picking that item out again, the actual return rate has to be greater than 50% to actually start to make economic sense. What we do is when there is an issue with a product, we try to make that as easy of a customer support opportunity as possible. We have a 94% customer satisfaction score because we use issues in the production and shipping process, whether it's a package that's lost or an item doesn't show up as expected. We use that to really surprise and delight the customer and make sure that purchase decision goes right. So we talk to our merchant partners all the time. 0.5% of packages are going to get lost. That is the stat that you're going to have, right? And while that means 99.5% of your customers, out of every 200 orders, 199 of them are going to get their item. For that one customer, that is 100% of their packages that are lost. We have a system in place with 27 support agents and 18-hour customer support every single day on our platform, where we want to make sure that we make it right by the end customer. And we find that really does create very, very loyal customers, because problems do happen. That's what, that just sort of happens. As far as returns go, when we talk to our merchant partners, build that into the sort of cost of delivering your product, right? We've had times, hey, I ordered this for my boyfriend and now we broke up. I want to return this product. It's like, well, your I love my boyfriend t-shirt isn't really going to be good for somebody else. And so we really talk about it as, what is that cost of customer?
Is that relationship advice?
No, that's way outside of my expertise. I handle e-commerce, not relationships.
Okay.
It's where those two intersect that things start to get a little bit hairy for me. But no, that's really how we think about it, is what is that cost of customer delight? And we usually put it at some percentage of your margin to create really, really loyal customers.
And what do this is in response to what's currently going on. What are your expectations of what you're going to work on in 2021?
There's a lot, right? The holiday season always makes it clear how much better that we can be doing. Look, we're going to continue to drive an enormous amount of value. We launched this year our Vim loyalty program for on-demand and supply and mass customization supply chain, which is sort of an industry first. We're really looking at driving incremental value back to our merchant partners into 2021 through our very important merchant program. That's going to be incredibly important. As I already alluded to, adding additional supply to our network so that we get greater and greater, sort of localization from a production standpoint, expanding out our product catalog as more and more equipment and hardware is created so that more and more products can take advantage of the sort of no inventory, just in time mass personalization opportunity. We're going to continue to expand our product catalog out, really making sure that the best of the on-demand supply chain, what is cutting edge, we really want to make sort of mass adoption for. So that's going to be a lot more personalization around the package itself, around the shipping label, around what goes in the box. When you think about e-commerce, the entire package effectively becomes the product. That's really where we're going to be driving a lot of incremental value in 2021, along with a much greater global expansion to be able to make sure that, the internet broadly doesn't really have borders, neither do your customers, right? A customer in Germany is just as likely to find your item on Instagram from San Francisco as, a seller in Barcelona is going to be trying to sell to something in New York. And so creating that kind of global network so that a single online solution can provide a globalized supply chain for products and customers worldwide, that's really where we're going to be going into 2021 and beyond.
And for the most part, the consumer doesn't even know you exist, right? You're sort of behind the scenes.
As long as we do our job right, that's exactly right. The consumer doesn't know we exist. In the same way, when you surf to a website and that website loads and it's being hosted by Azure for Microsoft, you don't need to know that. As long as that item arrives and it meets your expectation, the content is the value, right? Whether it's a design or the label or the logo or your picture or whatever it is, what we want to deliver is a high quality product quickly and meeting or exceeding experiences on behalf of our merchant partners. They invest enormous amounts into their brand. Our supply chain solutions need to meet those investments that they're investing in their brand so that they're meeting and exceeding customer expectations to build a loyal sort of long-term customer relationship between merchant and their end customer.
And your merchants, can they bring their product to the platform, or do they have to buy from one of your partners?
Not currently. Right now, we have a closed sort of supply chain, which allows us really to vet from a quality standpoint in a much greater degree. We're looking at enabling a bring your own manufacturer into 2021 beyond, really utilizing the Gooten order management system, the transparency and the ability, frankly, to run your entire business through a single order management system. Expect to see that into 2021 and beyond as we really try to bring the benefits of on-demand to more and more industries. As I said, on-demand commerce is and should be a complement to what you're already doing. We see a number of businesses that power 100% of their order volume through only the Gooten catalog. What we really want to enable is where on-demand makes sense, you should be utilizing the Gooten platform. Where your own network makes sense or where you have customized products. Think about an Etsy seller who does a large amount of products themselves. A hand-painted item, for example, would always be done by the artist, but a replica of that hand-painted item could easily be done through the Gooten manufacturing network. Putting those two in complement through the Gooten order management system is absolutely where our platform is going to be going.
And then it would be the e-commerce platform that would manage the disparate, fulfillment platforms, or how would that work?
Yeah, in a lot of ways, and I think there's so much change so quickly, and there's so many complementary services that I always hesitate who is going to take what. As we look at it, as Gooten looks at it, we constantly focus on the needs of our merchant partners, understanding their pain points, alleviating those, and in a lot of ways partnering with best-in-class software. There's so many pieces of software solutions out there that whether Gooten builds it into our platform or natively integrates it, what's most important when we look at it is how do we save our merchant partners time? How do we allow them to better communicate and connect with their end customer and focus on the only three things that matter, right? Traffic, conversion rate, and average cart value are the only three things that matter for a merchant. So how can we allow them to focus on revenue generating activities, which is interacting with their customers, creating content, creating value, and take away really everything that happens behind that, whether it's our supply chain solutions, white label customer support solutions that we offer through our platform, transparency and the ease and ability to respond to a changing customer environment by introducing new and novel products that extend the value of that content. Because again, unless it's sold, there is no cost to taking that item on. So as it makes sense, how can you go from a storefront with 100 products to 500 products, for example, and again, give your customer that sort of choice and selection that an on-demand supply chain can provide, while still staying true to the sort of voice of your brand and what your end customer expects.
And who is a Gooten customer? What's their profile look like?
We are an enterprise platform, so increasingly we have larger and larger businesses on our platform where they're doing 25, 50, 200 orders a day, and the idea of order processing just can't be done manually. It just can't. So an API connection in where the Gooten platform accepts at the time of checkout, the order routes through the Gooten platform and is immediately passed through to one of our 50 manufacturing partners to be produced and shipped. Really looking at it at volume. That's what's incredibly important, because the volume and the sort of two assets that our merchants have, time and capital. So that's going to be marketing capital, that's going to be product creation capital, and then the time in the day. That's really where the Gooten platform enables a growing amount of enterprises to either integrate on-demand commerce into a content creation site and complement that idea of online with offline, all the way to shifting legacy production chains, which were done in-house, where you had a production manager or a logistics manager. Now you have the ability for the Gooten supply chain to effectively take that entire process out of your company, relying on the Gooten operations team, for example, to monitor the health of your shipments and production regularly, and reinvesting in marketing and sales and customer acquisition activities internally.
And you indicated that you have global aspirations. What is your current reach?
Right now, I think we've shipped to 183 countries. We have locations in the US, Canada, Mexico, Europe, Australia, and India currently. what we're looking at doing is really opening up Europe and replicating the product set within Europe. But ultimately, we want the Gooten supply chain solution to be replicated globally. We believe that the same concept of producing in Nevada to ship to California, producing in New Jersey to ship to New York, that same concept should be true, that production in Germany can ship to Germany, that production in France can ship to France, that production in Brazil can ship to, to Sao Paulo. We really want to bring the best of the sort of global hardware and increases in the underlying business on a global basis through technology integration, so that we're sending a data packet 9,000 miles instead of a package. That helps for sustainability. That helps from an environmental standpoint. That also helps from a localization standpoint. It does not make sense to localize commerce to South Korea if your production partner is in Cleveland, Ohio. But when you do have that capability, when you can produce in South Korea to ship to South Korea, you now open up a market that, just like America, wants something customized for them. And so that's really where the Gooten platform is going to go, that a single integration can provide a global reach for online merchants and commerce, where they just need to do exactly what they have to do now, which is understand their end customer, understand that customer need and desire, and connect with that customer with every interaction.
And, not every platform is for every customer. So who shouldn't use this platform?
Yeah, we absolutely have to take that look. People who are doing the proverbial side hustle, who are going on and selling maybe one order item a week, the Gooten enterprise system doesn't allow for, we have a lot of power user tools. There are a lot of really, really good product creation platforms that allow for, a single order. People who are buying for themselves. This is not, we are not a platform for the end customer. We're really a supply chain platform. So, we really look to see a lot of our businesses migrate over to Gooten as they mature, as they start to break out of the constraints that other platforms may have that are looking much more at kind of the one or two item a week kind of sale. Our platform has a sort of time element from an investment standpoint to stand your products up, to get them published out to the store, that if you're not selling in volume, that if you're not dedicated to this as sort of primary purpose, doesn't make as much sense for really small sellers. But as industries are moving over to commerce, as they're complementing an existing supply chain solution, as they understand, for example, the ability for an API to be incredibly flexible, that you have an API into a supply chain solution, those are the primary businesses that can really benefit from the Gooten enterprise solution.
And I'm also assuming that to some degree, there needs to be a product, right? Versus, correct me if I'm wrong, if someone is selling, knowledge or a white paper or something like that, and charging $25 for a report, I'm assuming we're not expecting to see that on Wood.
No, we don't. But what the Gooten platform does do, we complement businesses in really interesting ways, which is why we have the platform that we have. We've seen people really take that idea of a white paper and extend the key elements from that whiteboard. What are the 3 takeaways? And they'll put it on a product and they'll sell that product. Or they'll create sort of the opportunity for a product to amplify the message. So the idea of e-commerce as an extension of brand, the sort of 360 idea, that it's not, you don't write an article and then you sell something, right? If you look at what Barstool Sports has done incredibly well, they don't write an article and then sell a shirt. They write an article about a shirt. So the shirt actually ends up becoming part of the story, and their community, by purchasing that shirt, becomes more and more a part of that universe. And so the sort of product and e-commerce enablement platform that Gooten allows you to extend that idea of brand and of self-identification to say, if you really believe in what we're doing here, this is a way to do it. You're absolutely right, though. There are businesses where it doesn't make sense to do this. For businesses where it does, though, this is the best way to do it. And you no longer have huge supply chains and vendor relationships and inventory relationships and working capital tied up. The on-demand platform can complement your business to the extent that it makes sense, so that you're really with your customer in every way that they want to self-identify with your brand.
So Brian, if our listeners are excited about this or want to learn more, where should they go?
Gooten.com, Gooten.com. You can find out why we are called Gooten. It is a homage to Johannes Gutenberg and the invention of the printing press,
Okay.
the democratization of knowledge.
Spelled differently, no?
It's spelled differently, yes, because the website domain was cheaper to purchase that way. But
Plus, and who wants an umlaut anyway, right?
that's exactly right. We're still a U.S. based company. So, but really, the printing press was the greatest. I believe the greatest invention in human history, because the ability to give knowledge to everyone opens up everything. We're looking at doing the same thing by democratizing the supply chain. We create thousands, if not millions, of direct to consumer brands, so that the content creator benefits to the greatest degree of the connection of what they're creating with the end customer. So www.gooten.com, you can sign up and create an account. We can walk you through with our onboarding flow exactly how to get set up. And for enterprises who are looking to integrate into the on-demand world, our first-rate knowledge, whether it's through our account management solutions or our white papers, can help get you up to speed as quickly as possible. That's one of the major benefits of the Gooten platform. We assign account managers to each enterprise that we have so that they're not going at this alone. We are your partner from setup all the way through launch, and then obviously post-sale.
So we talked a little bit, just to sort of bring this to a closure, though. We talked a little bit about, the one-offs are probably not this is not the right platform for that. What is, if you're interested in this platform, how big or what kind of order frequency is optimal to start?
Think about 2 orders a day, right? If you're going to invest the time and you believe that you can drive 2 orders a day, that's 60 orders a month. That's around 750 to 800 orders a year. That's the right size, right? If you're doing one-off orders, you really need to figure out, am I connecting with my merchant or my end customer the right way? Am I on the right platform? Do I have the right marketing? Do I frankly have the right content and message? At a 2 order a day sort of level, that's where a lot of the Gooten services can start to amplify what you're already doing, whether that's complementary products, whether that's greater reach, whether that's greater areas, and allowing you to focus again deeper and deeper into traffic, cart value, and conversion rate. How can you induce, when something goes into your cart, how can you get that checkout? That's really where it makes the most sense to join the Gooten platform. If you're just experimenting, there's a number of different platforms that are fantastic, very low cost to kind of integrate with and set up. But when you're really starting to drive that business differential, and you need sort of a power platform that can handle scale as you sort of continue to find that exact right customer fit, Gooten can scale with your business.
Brian, we very much appreciate your time today. We look forward to learning more about Gooten, because we're going to go visit the website, and we'll look for great things in the future. Again, thank you very much.
Sounds great, Mike. Really appreciate it.